Hello? You there?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going? You there?
Yeah. You hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Guest hosts, they're the worst.
They ought to outlaw guest hosts.
That's right.
Like, you mean tell me that before, Ryan?
I didn't want to hurt your feelings. Appreciate you stepping in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Looking forward to it. I was hoping to do it after I couldn't do it last time anyways, so.
No, it's just been Ruben's been busy. Everyone's busy. You're busy. Even Doug and Craig were busy. I'm starting to get a complexion that nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to do this with you no more,
If you
right?
get a legitimate guest host, what you need is a novelty.
That's right. But I did put on Twitter, and I know you're not on Twitter, so you didn't see this, that I want to start a third secret podcast. What I mean by that is I'm not even going to plug this podcast, the third one, on the Rocky podcast or on Worst of the Best podcast. Yeah, so if you're listening to the show, check out my other show, the Worst of the Best podcast, because it's really good. And we have let's say probably a tenth of the listeners, for numbers anyways, that listen to this podcast listen to the Worst of the Best podcast. It's really confusing to me because Rocky's a great subject. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I mean, I started doing a podcast because of Rocky, but the Worst of the Best podcast, it gives you a load of variety.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I don't know. I think it's just because people, I think, subscribe to what they know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Never mind.
No, well, that's fine. No, I mean, the way I look at podcasts too, and maybe I'm alone in this because I listen to like 15 different podcasts. It's like a TV show, or you can watch TV, but you're not watching one show. You can watch Law and Order, and look, I'm aging myself, or you can watch whatever the flavor of the week is, and you can also watch a reality show, and you can watch Real Housewives, and you can watch Survivor, and you can watch Breaking Bad or whatever. I don't think liking one show means you don't like any other kind of show. So I always find it interesting that people who listen to the Rocky podcast don't listen to my other Worst of the Best podcast, because they obviously listen to podcasts, but they must just like Rocky. So much so they don't like me and Ruben. They just like the topic Rocky.
We should do some sort of survey or something.
Yeah, maybe. For housekeeping really quickly, if you want to give us an email, the email is gtdwithrr@gmail.com, and we actually have a couple of new emails here. Kyle, I think one of them is directed to you.
Uh-oh.
Or to us together, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's from Greg. It's from Greg the First, so don't worry.
Greg the First. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so here goes. Ryan and Kyle, a few quick things I wanted to comment from your last podcast, or a few podcasts. He says, number one, I agree that Steps is an awful nickname. I always assumed Stallone was trying to make some type of connection to the Rocky Steps by giving him that name, but it never really made sense or paid off in any way.
Yeah. I don't know. You don't even hear him get called at Steps that much, other than that one scene where he's like, I'm going to put this on the steps. Which I commented in one of the pictures. I feel horrible for anyone who has to translate that for when the movie came out for other languages.
Right.
Because I doubt there's any language other than English where that makes any sense at all.
I'm going to put this on the steps. It's a good thing his name wasn't Phil. I'm going to put this dirt in the ditch, Phil. Bad joke. This was directed to me personally. Ryan, I think you pointed out that Stallone fixes Marie's light in this movie, and then he complains about the street light outside his own place in Creed 2. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. Another small connection between this movie and the Creed franchise. So I think he's just saying that had I not brought it up, he would have. But
yeah.
Thank you, Greg the First. Point 3. You talked about Rocky confronting the guy outside the bar as something maybe he would not have done in the past. Now, that's not true. I think it's the opposite, Greg. And I want to make this clear before I read on. I think what I said, if I remember, or what I was trying to say, was that the Rocky of the past probably would have done something like that, but we hadn't seen that behavior, is what I should have said, throughout the film storyline.
Yeah, I think I might have said something about how Rocky the past wouldn't have done that.
Oh,
like
okay.
it seems like he ignores a lot of taunts. For example, I like you really sweep good, man.
Yeah, you
Or
did.
like
You
when
did bring
Dipper's
that.
like I dig your locker or whatever, right?
Yeah, and I think you did bring that up, but he brings up a good point where, and I will read it right now, where Rocky did have that anger in him, and I know that he did. I guess what I was trying to say is that when he, in the early days, because he talked about in the movies how he and Paulie used to get in trouble with each other, and they got into a lot of scraps and stuff. Because Paulie says, "Remember when those guys were beating on you and I saved you?"
Yeah, something like that.
That was in Rocky 3. Paulie saved Rocky.
Yeah, he's like one of those punks who would get at you for talking jive. Who'd whack those bums out?
That's right.
I question the accuracy of Paulie's recollection.
Well, Paulie wasn't afraid to take a bat to his sister, so.
Oh, I'm not saying Paulie wouldn't. Rocky would have been more proficient in an altercation than Paulie.
Oh, probably.
I think Paulie himself would do some damage because he's so large and he seems pretty strong.
He goes on to say that my take is that he would have just drove off if they had confined their insults just to him. But the way they were mocking Marie and calling her names was the tipping point, and the reason he changed his mind. I would compare it to the statue ceremony in Rocky 3 when Clubber starts making comments towards Adrian. That is when Rocky really tries to go after Clubber and has to be held back.
Oh, that's a good point. Now, I don't recall them saying anything towards Marie, but I don't remember the whole scene. Like, I remember that one guy calling Rocky like punch drunk goofy bastard. I'd have to listen to it again to know for sure what they said. But
yeah,
if they did say something towards Marie, that definitely would make a lot of sense.
They did. I don't remember the exact dialogue because I had the captions on. I could see the words, and they were basically calling her somebody that sleeps around.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Point 4. Everything about the boxing simulation between Rocky and Mason Dixon reminds me of a video game simulation, from the graphics to the canned commentary. He says, I would compare it to the NFL Madden video game franchise in some ways. Every year before the Super Bowl, the company that makes the game, EA Sports, will run a simulation using the current version of the game to predict a winner, and news outlets will pick that up. Here's an article from last year about the simulation. Sends the article. It says, those games also let you put a, quote, classic great teams from the past in games against current teams, so not that dissimilar from the Rocky versus Mason fight. Hope that makes sense. It does, but that is how I've always thought about that scene.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'd like to know more about technically how they do AI for computers and stuff like that, and how you can. Because I think, for example, like for football, but also boxing or something, how do you really mimic the way Rocky fights or something like that? Like, could you put the heart in the AI or whatever? Right?
Yeah, well, that's the human factor. No, you can't.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I
can't.
think they do disclaim that now that I think about it. Like taking out the human factor, I think they say that specifically.
Because someone's drive could stop. Like, someone could have received, like the star quarterback could have received bad news the day before the game that his wife's leaving him.
Yeah.
So his head's out of the game. He might have the skills, but his heart's not there.
In real life, they do something called like the Monte Carlo simulation, which is like basically a series of simulations where like you run it a bunch of times, like say like 1,000 times. So it's like, say, Rocky wins 750 of the 1,000 simulations.
Right.
Then you'd say, like, okay, well, Rocky would have like a 75% chance of beating Dixon in that fight or whatever.
No, I like it. You brought that up, I think, on our last recording.
Yeah.
Point 5, last one. This is a very good email, so I have no problem reading these out. Greg the first. He says, one last anecdote. Completely unrelated to Rocky Balboa, the movie, I think is what it's referring to. This past weekend in the States, there was a Rocky marathon on television on Sunday, just for the first 5 films. He goes on to say, and he's right, that the rights to Rocky Balboa are owned by a different channel here. But that seems to be the case everywhere, Greg the First, that even here in Canada, no matter what channel Rocky seems to marathon on, it seems like Rocky Balboa is never really a part of that marathon. I could be wrong. Maybe our listeners could prove me wrong. But I even think on Netflix they didn't have Part 6 on there. And I think it's a licensing, because I know Part 6, Rocky Balboa, was licensed by not just MGM, but somebody else as well. Whoever licensed Part 6 doesn't like to stream them together.
I have right in front of me right now the Rocky, the Complete Saga, which it happens to include Rocky Balboa. I'm just looking on the case here. For the other films, they have MGM and 20th Century Fox. And then on Rocky Balboa, it does have MGM and Columbia Pictures. And then has Sony Pictures as well.
That's right, Sony. That's right. So Sony is the company. They must have a larger stake in the film. The companies probably all agreed, like, hey, we're going to sell this box set. We'll make more money of all 6 of us. So I wonder if Sony, did they get like a 1/6 of the price? Or I wonder what their cut is for the whole box set for allowing their one film in it.
It depends. You'd have to negotiate something like that. Because you can make the point that maybe someone might only buy that set because Rocky Balboa's in it or something like that. I don't know.
Well, you know that the lawyers, when they're talking, are basically saying, look, ultimately, guys, this box set won't be complete without Balboa. You're going to have too many complaints.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say in this email about the marathon, this is really quite interesting. He says, just for the first 5 films, I just wanted to share with you the order in which they showed the movies and what it says about Rocky V's perception to the public. He says, I think the marathon started around noon and it went like this. So he's now saying this is how the movies started and were shown during this marathon. Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 again, 4 again, and then 5.
That is really bizarre.
So he goes on to say they made sure to show Rocky 3 and 4 twice before showing Rocky 5 at all. And what time did Rocky 5 actually make it on the air? 3:40 a.m. Okay,
and so if we subtract, like, is Rocky 3 and 4, those are, we talked to this before, I can't recall.
They're like
an hour and a half?
Well, it's almost 4 with commercials, of course, because it's on. I don't think it's.
Oh yeah.
So you're talking 4 hours. So they could have easily started showing this movie. They could have shown Rocky 5 at 11 p.m. without any issue.
Yeah, which a lot of people would, if they were interested in watching it, could have tuned in
or recorded it.
Yeah,
but they purposely pushed it until like 2 hours before people are waking up for work.
Yeah, like what's the chances of someone watching Rocky 5 at 3:40 a.m.?
Well, bless the heart if anyone did.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, one more email. I hope our listeners don't mind the emails. If they do, I guess they can just skip around. Whatever. I don't care.
Well, they could email us if they don't like it.
Yeah, email us.
And we'll read that email too.
Boy, my mind just exploded. This is from Hector, our independent pro wrestler fan. He said, hey guys, thanks for reading my previous email on the air. Probably the only time I was fully awake at work and was hearing you read my email. So I like how the only thing that kept him awake was the email that he wrote to us that we read back to him was the best part of the show for him. But
I think it'd be for me too. Like it'd be surreal if someone's reading something I wrote on a podcast. I find it surreal that someone listens to me talk while they're working. Like I find that really odd. Like it's flattering, but it's also like, that is weird.
I wonder if anyone's listening to me while they're making love.
Well, your wife might, but...
Yeah, no, she doesn't listen to me. So, speaking of wife, he goes on to say here, Hector says, I told my wife about it, I guess the email or us reading the email. She said, oh, cool. But I don't think she really cared. Like the time I told her they were making the Creed movie. I love this. It goes on. He goes on to say, I really enjoyed the last episode. Slower the better. Or the way Marge Simpson likes it on Whacking Day. First slow, then fast. I'm not sure.
That's the episode of The Simpsons when they have the whacking day where they whack snakes with clubs.
Oh, okay. All right.
When I read slow, then fast, then slow, or something like that.
Okay. There are so many small this is Hector the wrestler going on. He goes, there are so many small nuances that makes this film great. Loved getting to know Steps as I've never seen him in anything else. So I guess he liked our little bio read that we did on Steps there. He goes, the real reason for this email is the guy taking a picture of his son with Rocky in Adrian's restaurant. He goes, I've experienced the same thing, living vicariously through my kid when meeting a legend. Not too long ago, I had the opportunity to film a toy unboxing video with Mick Foley, also known as Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love. Instead, I had my 13-year-old daughter be in the video with Mr. Foley while I filmed and, quote, directed. My daughter was so nervous, and I completely understood, but I was super nervous. I've met him before, Cactus Jack or Mick Foley, but just in passing, and I never got a chance to really interact with him, let alone make a video with him. After all was said and done, I was so pumped, so excited, so happy that I forgot to take a picture with Mick Foley, who's also a big Rocky fan, by the way, and liked my impression, but I think he does a better one. While driving back home, I'm recapping with my daughter how awesome Mick was, how much of a great guy he is, how the video will come out amazing, how I had become a bigger fan of his because of the experience, and then she turned and said to me, yeah, who is he again? Doink the Clown?
Oh.
He goes, thank you guys, the real Hector Canales. All right, that's a really cool email. See, these are the emails I love. I mean, I love them all.
Yeah,
but
that was a good one.
by the way, the other Greg hasn't emailed us in a while. I hope he's still listening. Greg the First, thank you. And Hector, thank you. Those are awesome emails. I think they add to the show, add to the experience. And that was a really cool story. It's cool that he got to meet Mick Foley. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. Do you know where these guys are from?
I know. I think they're both from the States.
Well, I know. Well, I figured the States, but it's like, if they're from like East Coast or, wherever.
Well, why don't we ask them in their next email? Heck, because they both emailed us before. Greg or Hector, if you don't mind sharing, maybe, what you do for work, where you're from. I feel like I'm getting to know you guys a little bit. Okay. Again, if you want to send us an email, it's gtdwithrr@gmail.com. Also, our Patreon is set up. We've got 3 Patreons. We got 3. I've mentioned them before. We have, off the top of my head, I think Greg the First is one of them. I think he was the first one to be Patreon. So thank you, Greg. And,
thank you, Greg.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And then our second Patreon is Mike Sanders. Thank you. And the third one is my parents.
Nice.
Yeah, my mom subscribed. I would assume it was her. So thank you, Mom. That's very kind of you, very sweet of you, very unnecessary. I feel, because she knows that I feel guilty, but it's her way of showing her support and love, so I'm not going to deny it. So thank you, Mom. So if you guys want to help out with the show, we would appreciate the Patreon. If you give us something that's a substantial amount, we will do a request. Any topic you want even, but Rocky related, but Stallone related, or anything related. If you give us a big enough donation, we'll accept those type of requests, and that Patreon episode would be available for everyone to hear. Lastly, just a reminder that, this show costs money. Like I said before, it costs $300 a year just to run the show and to host the show, to get it out to your ears, and the time and energy it takes to do the show. So any little bit helps. And somebody asked, can the Patreon be done like monthly or whatever you give it's you can cancel, stop, start. There's no obligation. So Patreon,
you can do one-time ones too, can't you?
One-time payment, as little as you want, as much as you want. And like I said, if you don't have the money, and I understand, totally understand, but you want to share your appreciation, but not financially with us, just send us an email. Or comment on Twitter, which I've gotten some of those, so a thank you to those. Like us on Facebook. It all helps out. Just to keep the energy going. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the episode. Kyle, can you see the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. We just finished the scene, Ruben and I, on the last one where, so Rocky has just seen the simulation fight on the TV with Paulie in the bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Calls.
So the next scene that we're going to discuss now is we see Rocky Jr. walking outside, and he's going to bump into or meet with his father outside. They're going to have a discussion.
One thing I really like about this movie, a lot of the Rocky movies, is they reuse a lot of the music from the previous films. And I think they do a good job of choosing when to reuse it. So the music that plays when Rocky is looking at the TV and he has that look on his face, to me, it's like it echoes back to the previous films. Like when something bothers Rocky or something that affects him, like that music really just gets that feeling going inside of me.
I agree. Of note, though, and I believe Ruben brought this up, I think the premiere episode of the season 6, that Bill Conti only created one piece of new music for this movie. So you bring up a good point. They do reuse the original pieces from the first Rocky film, but only one new original piece of music was made for this film.
I think it's fine. This movie relies heavily on nostalgia, and that's okay. Using the previous music makes sense if that's going to be the theme of your film, right?
I think that was the idea. I think that it probably was intentional, just to say, look, this is really the bookend to the Rocky saga. So let's call back to the theme music, the theme song, the feeling, and everything. Yeah, it works.
Yo, Robert. What is this? What are you doing out so late?
I tried calling, but nothing was picking up.
So we should make note here that it's Robert actually just walking out of the pub that he just saw that simulation fight with his friends because it's the Irish pub there, and Rocky just saw the same thing on the news with Paulie at his restaurant. So Rocky must have known that Robert might have been at that pub, maybe?
Well, no, this is Robert's house here, which is weird that it's so close to the Irish pub.
Sorry, it looked like he was walking across the street from the pub, though.
It did. You're right.
Okay.
But then he asks Rocky in just a second here, do you want to come up? Do you want to come in?
Oh.
So it seems like his house is either right here or maybe just a little bit up the street. Because there's no way Rocky would have known he's going to be at this particular Irish pub, but like I could see him hanging around his house.
Good point. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I never noticed before watching the video. That's the same Irish pub that he was just at. And so I guess he's picking a place that's close to home.
That's probably a pretty good location. He's got a pad that close to a pub and everything. Walking distance.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about drinking and driving or anything like that.
Yeah.
Something wrong?
No, I just wanted to come by and see you in person.
You want to come inside?
No, I just want to get your opinion on something.
Sure. Opinion on what?
Well, they say you only go around once, right?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well,
Rocky's obviously contemplating in his mind right now about he's just seen this simulation fight in this short time. Kyle, has he already come to this decision? Can you explain how quickly he's come to the decision that he's thinking about maybe going back into the ring and just throwing a few punches again?
Yeah, it does seem pretty quick. Sometimes you just get an idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something inside of him is bothering him. Watching that fight was kind of the light bulb moment.
Ooh,
You just get this idea and you're like, yep, that's what I want to do.
so speaking of light bulbs,
Oh, yes, of course.
the light bulb theme continues. He made the analogy that we only go around this once. Well, that's if you're 1 year old.
Oh, I think he just means like you're only going to live once.
I know, but he made the motion of a spinning circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, it's a small thing, but it's
Right.
just kind of funny. Yeah.
And Robert's like, yeah, I've heard that, which he probably hasn't. But he probably just, by this point, it's like, yeah, of course, Dad. Of course.
For all we know, Rocky thinks one rotation around the sun is a lifetime.
I think I want to, do something.
Like what?
Fight.
Now, I really love this little moment here. So it's really good acting on these two actors here. You have to watch it, of course, listeners. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch this scene because Milo Ventimiglia, in this moment, of course, we know as an actor that he knows what's coming next. But what makes an actor a good actor is that he portrays that he doesn't, right? So when he says, oh, like what? He's like, nice little small moment he has with his dad. Like, hey, my dad's connecting with me. He's about to tell me about a new hobby he's going to do. That's really kind of cool. And he lights up. It's a genuine lighting up in his face, which is going to be quickly extinguished.
Rocky does seem like genuinely quite nervous. I'm sure in his mind, he's like, okay, I know this looks crazy. In my own head, this makes sense, but I know they're not going to see it quite like how I see it. I'm trying to sell it anyways.
Well, I love how he puts his hands out and he just goes, fight.
Yeah.
He just drops it on the table, which is probably the best approach. It's just, he could have easily just said, I'm going to start a magic show.
Yeah. It'd be like, oh, okay, good for you, Dad. Because it's like, what's the worst that could happen with a magic show, right?
Yeah. All right. So he's about to explain. He sees already that Robert's not impressed. He goes, nothing big, small stuff like locally. I guess you're already trying to tell Robert, it's not going to be like back in the day when I went to Russia and Germany to fight people. It's just going to be, throwing punches around locally.
If I was Robert, I'd be like, Dad, you probably should have thought that going back to fighting when we lost all our money and then
well, I think
we could have not lived in the ghetto.
I think he needed to lose Adrian.
Well, I know. I'm thinking more along the lines of Rocky's health. The whole premise of Rocky 5 is that he no longer can take punches to the head without risking serious brain injury, right?
What do you think the champ would have done to you? He would have hurt you. Permanent.
If you let something alone long enough, it'll just heal. Permanent. There's no such thing as permanent damage when it comes to Rocky.
Yeah, Mickey was mistaken about that when he goes permanent. No, Mickey, nothing's permanent with Rocky. He's no more brain damage, no more blind eye. He sees like a beagle.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing big, small stuff like locally.
Don't you think you're too old.
That's a fair question.
How old is he? Is he 60 or 50 something?
15, I think he was 59 at the time of filming.
Yeah, so he's like my parents' age now. I couldn't imagine my dad going in the ring. Like,
Well, I mean, does he have a history?
even so, right? Like I do karate and I go to tournaments and stuff, and they have old men fighting each other, but you don't take huge headshots either. So
My kids just started karate here, and they're really enjoying it. The
cool.
the 5-year-old girl and the 8-year-old boy. The 5-year-old son does not want to do it at all. So, but the other two really have taken to it and really quite enjoy it. They have their gis now, but their instructor, he's probably 59 himself. If not, he looks like he's 59, but he's probably between 55 and 60, right? And he's in great shape. He moves well, and you can tell he's taking care of himself. So, in Stallone is certainly in real life, he's not your average 73-year-old now.
no.
Yes, but in this movie, he is 59, if not darn close to it, because the events took place in Rocky V 16 years ago, and he was 40 to 43 in that film. So at the very least, he's 56, 55 here, maybe.
Yeah, they've always portrayed Rocky as being the actual age of Sly.
Yeah, they have, because even in Rocky 1, with Rocky 1, he was 30.
Yeah.
And he was 30 in real life when he made Rocky 1. So they've done a pretty good job of correlating the real life age. And so it's addressed here, like, don't you think you're old? And of course, he's speaking what every audience member is thinking, which you have to push the storyline. Yeah.
Yeah, but you think you ought to stop trying things because you had a few too many birthdays? I do not.
People are going to think you're gone crazy.
Oh, sorry, stop the audio a little bit quick there. But I love how he says, I do not. I like that little part there.
Yeah. This is kind of like, it's just the classic awkwardness of Rocky. I think Sly does a great job in this movie of finding a balance between his character being kind of like wise, but also kind of awkward and silly. He was kind of a little over the top weird in Rocky V. And then he was kind of a little too stoic in Rocky IV. And in here, in this film, I think he gets it just right.
Yeah.
And one thing I found interesting about what Robert said, he didn't think, I think you're crazy or anything like that. From his point of view, he's like saying people are going to think you're crazy. And I think what's really going through Robert's head, or what are his friends going to say to him? What are people at work going to say to him? What are clients going to say to him?
Okay.
Robert's mind, I think he's really thinking more about himself and how this is going to affect his image in his life than what this really means for his dad.
He's lived in his father's legacy shadow, and now he's like, crap, now he's going back into it. This could be embarrassing for the family name. So it's one thing to live in a shadow of championship, but now it's going to be a shadow of embarrassment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Kardashians. First, they were the stepkids of Olympian champion Bruce Jenner, and then the girls became, stepchildren to Caitlyn.
Their biological father is quite famous too.
Yeah, well, their biological father got O.J. Simpson off for murder. So all in all, they've had some great examples in their life.
Yeah.
So again, Robert, the character, is pushing the storyline, but also he's addressing the audience or the public's thoughts as well. It's a way of the movie saying, we know you're thinking it in the audience watching this. Robert's bringing it up, and now we get to hear what Sly and or Rocky would say to this. The whole premise of this film is on this issue. So it's a really good way of saying, yes, Sly is old. Yes, Rocky's old. Yes, people are going to think Rocky's crazy. Yes, people are thinking Sly is crazy to do this movie. The art and life in this franchise just keeps continuing.
Yeah, exactly.
What's crazy about standing toe to toe saying I am,
It's just ego talking.
Yeah, I think Robert's way off base with the ego. I don't think Rocky's ever been that egotistical.
That's terrible. Kyle just texted me a joke from that Kardashian bit.
I didn't want to say it on the thing just in case you forgot to edit it.
Oh my gosh. If anyone wants to hear the joke and they're not easily offended, if you're not a snowflake and you want to hear the joke, send me a Twitter. All right. Okay. What was the setup again so I can get the punchline right?
So you're saying they got OJ off.
Yes, right. The dad got OJ off. All right, yeah, okay. We'll leave it at that. Robert says that that's ego talking. But I like Rocky's response. That's another great line. It's not quoted very often in the Rocky franchise. Actually, is what's so crazy about going toe to toe and saying I am.
Yeah. You see, you hear toe to toe a lot in Rocky. The whole I am thing is kind of interesting.
What do you think he means by that?
Well, I guess it's kind of like this is who I am and this is what I'm doing, or like I am what I am, something along those lines.
I am what I am, and that's what I am.
Yeah, I guess.
Is that Popeye?
I don't know.
That is Popeye. I am what I am, and that's what I am. I think Popeye is actually Mickey. Holy smokes, I just realized that. Okay, so Robert says that's just ego talking.
Look, what are you trying to prove to other people, Pop?
Prove. Listen, I stopped thinking the way other people are thinking a long time ago. You know, you got to think like you think.
That's a good point, and this is something I struggle with. I admit this is Ryan exposing himself a little bit. It's tough, Kyle, to stop caring what other people think and just live your own life and to think what you want to think. That's exactly what Rocky's saying here, and it's absolutely the way to be. Like, he wants to go back in the ring, let him. He wants to go and try to, let him. He doesn't care. He understands what Robert's saying, but obviously he cares what Robert thinks, but he doesn't care what the general public thinks.
I would guess, Ryan, not to put words in your mouth, but I would guess that you probably care less about what other people think now than you did, say, 20 years from now, or
Easily.
20 years ago, or 10 years ago.
Even 5 years ago. Like, I'm 44 now, and I thank you. I was going to get to that. I got lost in my own thought. But yeah, that's what I meant to say is as I get older, and I'm not as old as 59, but I'm only 15 years behind Rocky's age in this movie. I have, in the last 20 years, you're right, Kyle, I care less now. Absolutely what people think than I did when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah, like you're more kind of grounded in your opinions, and it seems like a lot of older people, they just don't give a shit. This is what I am. This is what I'm doing. If you don't like it, tough.
Right.
And in some ways, it's kind of irritating if they have some weird views on stuff. But in other ways, it's very admirable that you're not living your life according to other people's expectations or how they think. It's just like, look, I got to live with myself. And Mason's trainer, Marv, said the only respect that really matters is self-respect.
Mm-hmm. Is it Marv or Martin? I
thought it was Marv. I don't know.
I think it's Martin. Yeah, when I released that episode, there was a lot of good jokes that I took out. Man. We made some funny jokes about... Again, if you want to hear the jokes about Martin, do you remember the joke?
No, I don't.
And I'll edit this part out. I'll just tell you right now, but it was, we just called him...
Oh, yeah, I didn't get the part from before, but yeah, I know we were...
So I just edited it out. If I have to question it...
It's probably... Right. I don't know.
That's why I edited it out, because it's like, if I have to wonder, then I just edit those jokes out if I wonder.
Yeah.
I was going to say at the beginning, before I got interrupted with the kids fighting upstairs, is I'm going to check on them too in about 2 minutes, if that's okay, just because now they're too quiet. I have a third podcast that I'm going to do.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah. It's going to be a while before it ever comes out, like maybe spring, summer, the first episode. But yeah, I'll tell you, but I'll edit it out. It's going to be on...
Oh, cool.
And I'm looking for a round table of guest hosts, meaning I'm going to run it. And because it's like I've learned this isn't a slight on Ruben or you or anyone else, but there's so many times I ask if people can record. It's like, man, people are busy, and understandably so. We have lives, we have jobs, we have families, and we're time difference. And so, but I really love podcasting. I really love the subject that I told you that I've edited out that people can't hear because I don't want anyone to steal my idea. I'm looking for like any number amount of guest hosts that I can kind of call upon, and if they give me their suggestions of the movie genre that I'm talking about, we'll break down those films. So I'll give you a hint to the listeners. It's another film podcast, but I think it's good. The genre is something I really like. Yeah. Do you want to be a part of that, or do you not like that genre?
I'd be interested in being a part of it. I'm not a huge guy, but like I don't dislike them either. So it'd almost be like if you want someone that has a perspective or they're not.
That's fine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll have to edit out your genre every time you bring it up. But I'm trying to keep it a secret, the genre at least. No, that's fine. I'm going to go check on the kids right now. Just give me 1 minute. But before I do, I was just going to say that, yeah, but also there's films that are in that genre that I'm sure you'd like if you went and looked at them. You're like, oh, I actually like that one, even though you might not be the fan of that genre as a whole. And that would be the ones that you can come on as well. Okay, I'll be right back. Just give me 30 seconds. So a lot of my listeners aren't on Twitter, so I want to make that same invitation to my listeners reach out to me via this email that I've given out. If you think you got what it takes to be a podcast guest host, let me know, and I'll let you know what the topic is and my response to you. Okay.
I do.
Do you? Good.
You gotta face reality. Okay, it's a different world now.
Only the clothes is different.
Rocky with his wisdom.
Yeah, I think, wow.
They're both right in some ways. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, I think so. I think Rocky's right in the sense that the more things change, the more they remain the same. The clothes might be different. People are probably like less racist now, for example. Maybe.
Well, there's still racism, but yeah, the world is, in many ways, yes, we're not as violent a culture as we used to be, despite the media coverage. There's better medicine, there's better education. With education comes less violence. Yeah, absolutely. So the world is becoming a better place. It is, but at the same time, human nature in some ways is we're just still people, and that's what Rocky's saying is, I'm still just Rocky, even though his clothes aren't that much different.
They both have a point. I tend to agree with Rocky a bit more on that. A lot of things remain exactly the same because people are people. And,
Right.
and that reminds me of an article I read. I can't remember where it's from, but it was some sort of psychological phenomenon where people believe if they were just born at a different time or a different decade or something, they would just do so much better.
Mm.
Or things would be so much better, or they would, like the reason things aren't the way they are, not the way they want them to be, is because of the time they're in. And that's really kind of, in a lot of ways, a cop-out. That likely you would have been very similar if you were from a different decade, because things aren't really that different.
I used to think that too as I was younger. I used to think in my 20s, it's probably around like late teens, early 20s. I used to think that I would have been better suited for like the 1800s.
Huh.
But now that I'm 44 and I kind of lean towards what you're saying there. It's like I think whatever growth I needed, whatever personal growth I needed, it's going to be, the clothes will just be different.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very wise, Rocky. Very wise.
Yes, of course.
I really don't know what you want from me.
I just wanted us to get involved, like home team.
Yeah, Rocky's obviously asking for his son's support and approval because, ironically, this is the one person he wants or cares about what they think. He just finished saying it doesn't matter what people think, but it does for Rocky what his son thinks, and he does use the home team.
Yeah, one of the few direct Rocky V references.
Yeah, interesting enough, eh? Well, interesting. This is the character of Rocky. The funny thing about Rocky V is it's an essential film in the franchise because the Robert character. This is a direct sequel to the relationship these two have.
Oh yeah, like everything. This whole movie, like the fact that they're here is because of Rocky V. Like, that's what I meant by direct, because there's a lot of stuff that's indirectly related to Rocky V.
Mm-hmm.
Like them being in the old neighborhood, Rocky wearing the clothes he wears, the fact that they're not rich, all sorts of things. There's not a ton of quotes from Rocky V, except this one home team one. And I don't know why home teams always bugged me.
It's not very good.
Like home team, I'm like, oh God, no.
No, because you're a parent and I'm a parent. I would never say to my boys, my older boys now, but then even my younger boys and daughter, I would never say, yo, come on guys, we're a home team, Like it's kind of a goofy way of just saying like we're a unit, we're a team. Hey, we're a team, or I would just say we're a family. I just say that. I say, we help each other out because we're family. That's what families do. So maybe it's kind of boring, but I just use the metaphor that we're a family.
Well, yeah. This scene, I think, really highlights how Rocky and Robert are just on totally different wavelengths.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like really they're talking past each other at this point. Like neither one understands the other in terms of where they're coming from. I think that's systemic of just their lack of being close all these years.
Ironically, even after the events of this movie, their relationship becomes even more strained.
Which is odd. You would think that things would have improved. I guess Robert moves to Vancouver because he wants to, the Shadow. It makes sense now that I think about it, because after his fight with Dixon and how awesome that was, I'm sure everyone in Philly was talking about it, especially to Robert. And that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. And he's like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, he literally moved to a different country on the other side of on the other side, like from east to west coast.
Yeah.
Look, whatever it is, whatever you're going through, it'll pass.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Time it's gonna catch up to all of us.
Especially if you're standing still, you know.
Hey, come on.
So it's still kind of a nice tender moment. Robert's trying to help him out, saying, this will pass. This feeling of getting back in the ring, it's going to pass. I love how Rocky says, yeah, especially if you're just standing still. Like, if I don't pursue it, I guess it will pass.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's still like they're just talking past each other, I feel. They have concern for each other and they have the hug and stuff, but like, I really don't think Robert gets it at all.
No, he doesn't, but I think his wanting to help is genuine.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too. Like, I think he loves and cares about his dad, even if they're not that close.
Right. Because I think Robert initiated the hug here.
Yeah, yeah. Like, their relationship's not that bad.
No. It's not. And that's what makes the events of Creed 1 and 2 a little bit kind of disheartening. But I don't want to spoil anything. But at the end of Creed 2 ties the bow up that we know that they're happy.
Well, let's be real. Everyone in listening's seen Creed 2, so.
I hope so.
Good.
I'm gonna call you in the morning.
Yeah, there's his house right there, yeah.
Tell this to your kid, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think? You're nuts, right?
Yeah.
So we'll do this scene here, Kyle, because this scene's really, really good.
Okay.
I don't want to rush it, but it's up to you.
No, I'm okay.
The setting here for our listeners is now they're in the meat factory, Paulie's job, that old meat factory. Paulie's there, 35 years later. Paulie's like, no, did you tell the kid? And Rocky's like, yeah, I told him. And Paulie's doesn't understand why the kid don't get behind this.
Oh, well, he don't believe in you? Welcome to my world, buddy.
So good old Paulie just always turning things around on himself.
Yeah. It is classic Paulie, just zero tact. He can't empathize with other people at all. He's going to tell you what he thinks, and he doesn't care how he says it.
He's supposed to say, Rocky, nobody's giving you no title shot. So he's really crapping on Rocky here.
Rocco,
which is like, did Rocky say the local part? Like, he was telling Robert he doesn't want to do anything big. He just wants to do local things. Like, maybe he didn't tell Paulie that, or maybe perhaps Paulie didn't listen.
Right. Yeah, like he's not saying I'm going after the title. I think he just wants to feel the blood and sweat again a little bit, to call back to a simpler time in his life.
Yeah, and this is Stallone. I say this all the time in the podcast, but he always borrows narratives from real life fighters. Like almost every film has one. This is very similar to George Foreman going back into boxing.
Yes.
And George Foreman went back in, I think, 88 or maybe 86. It was the mid to late 80s. And he was pretty overweight and he was slow. And no one took him seriously at first. Right. Because I think he was in his late 30s, early 40s when he started. But yeah, like it's kind of a similar. No one took it seriously at all until he got the championship again.
Yeah, of course. So Paulie doesn't believe in Rocky, at least the title shot version of Rocky.
Rocco, nobody's giving you no title shot.
I know that. I don't want one.
So this isn't a mental disturbance.
This isn't a mental disturbance. So while Paulie's saying this, he's at work, but he's painting on the job. And that's an official Burt Young painting, which reminds me, I've got to email that contact that I think it was Greg, the other Greg that sent me that information. I think.
It's a wonder why Paulie lost his job at one point.
Yeah, spoiler alert. He's going to get laid off. I think the boss got tired of him doing painting at the meat factory while he's supposed to be working.
Yeah.
And drinking.
Yeah. Well, he's gotten away with drinking at work for decades.
That's true.
I wonder when Paulie went back to the meat factory, though. I'm trying to think. Because, he was in the meat factory or the meat packing plant.
In Rocky 2.
In 1976 to, 77 in Rocky 2.
And then he said...
Well, Rocky 2 is technically 79, but
right.
Whatever that is. And then he leaves to be a collector.
Yep.
And then I think he goes back. I think he's still there at the beginning of Rocky 3.
No, because he asked Rocky for a job. Can I have a job?
Oh, that's right.
All you had to do was ask.
Yeah, and then Rocky 4, there's no evidence of him working in the meat factory.
I think in Rocky 4 and 5,
maybe?
maybe it must have been after the events of 5. He had to find work again. I think he got back to the meat factory when because he was living off Rocky's millions in 3 and 4. Let's be honest.
Did they reference in this film how long he was working? I swear they said something about I was there for 30 years or something.
Yeah, maybe together. Maybe not in a row.
Well, yeah, like he would have been there for, if he went back right when they moved back to the old neighborhood, that'd be like 16 years.
Yeah, and then he did 15 to 16 years before he asked for work after Rocky.
I don't know how long he was there by the time Rocky 1 started. That's a good point.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
You're mad because they took down your statue.
Now, this is interesting here because Paulie, again, this is life and art, right? Paulie says, you're mad because they took down your statue. Now, I believe when this was filmed in 2006, when this was filmed and written, the statue was taken away from the steps.
It was. I was there in 2007, and it's at the bottom, just off to the side. Like if you're walking down the steps, it's on your left-hand side, right there.
But I believe it was not even at the museum that the statue was brought back to the museum area because of Rocky Balboa Part 6 here.
Maybe.
And Stallone was there for the reinstatement ceremony.
Oh, okay.
And
I have to look that up. Or maybe Greg would know this.
Greg the First will know this. And this is without me Googling, but I'm going to say this as for the record. And if I'm proven wrong, I will correct myself on a further recording. But my understanding so this line here is true. So it's Paulie actually really kind of, poking fun at Rocky. But it's kind of like, again, Stallone writing this real world stuff that his statue was taken down. I believe it was taken to the Spectrum, or whatever stadium was there at the time, and that's where it was placed. But then after this movie was reannounced and the surge of Rocky, love came back, the city kind of said, hey, let's bring the statue back, and then there it's at the bottom of the steps now at the museum.
That's so weird why it would be at the Spectrum or somewhere, because Rocky's not a real, there's nothing to do with the movies or anything. Seems like near the steps is the only place that statue would make sense at all.
And that's where it is now.
Do you know if it was at the top of the steps for a while after 3, or is it just there for the movie?
I believe it was. I think when it got moved, it was moved from the top. Again, somebody will let us know.
Because I can tell you what they do have at the top of the steps now, or at least when I was there in 2007, is they have Rocky's footprints cast in metal.
Yeah, it's my understanding it's still there because I see a lot of pictures on Twitter and stuff where people are still taking photos with that. Yeah.
No. Not really, no.
I love that. I love how Burt Young or Paulie laughs. You got to wonder which one it is that's laughing at Rocky there. A bit of both. And I love how Rocky says, no, not really, no. But again, Sly probably feels that way too. No, not really, no. And then Paulie's going to ask about if it's about money. So again, this is this weird connection between the real life character of Stallone and his life about the money, about the franchise, Rocky, and Rocky in the character. It's crazy how much this mimics both the life and the movie.
Yeah, and no one's asking about his health. No one's, hey, is this safe?
No.
Maybe Dad or maybe Rocky, if you're Paulie, from Paulie's perspective, maybe you might get hurt really bad doing this. I don't want to see something bad happen to you.
Yeah, the only two people that cared about that are dead, Mickey and Adrian.
Yeah, exactly. Also, for the writing here, you probably want to draw as much attention away from that as possible because it's essentially a continuity error.
Right. Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's continuity, but it's an error in the storyline. It's a plot hole. Yeah, that's what it would be. It'd be a plot hole, the health issue. So they're probably not trying to draw attention to it.
No, that's fair.
If it's about money, just hang a sign around your neck saying, punch me. $5, you'll make big money.
So Paulie's trying to, crack wise and have a little fun, but Rocky is having none of these things. His face is showing it here that there's something really going on here. We're going to find out what that is. And one of the best scenes in this film.
What? You haven't peaked yet?
I love that line.
Well, you haven't peaked yet?
Yeah, and again, it's a callback to the franchise itself, Stallone himself, and Rocky himself. Stallone, who, as we know in real life, was the top movie person of the world in the 80s and early 90s. He was literally on the mountain, Rocky IV, both metaphorically and in the film. It's top of the world. His movies were number one. He was a number one paid actor. Here he is in Rocky VI, Rocky Balboa. the actor and the character. And Paulie's like, what else do you have to prove? You haven't peaked yet? Like, what more do you need to give to the world of sports entertainment and to and Stallone to the movie world? The answer that Rocky gives is both Stallone and Rocky talking.
Just from a perspective of how to deal with people, it's funny how neither Robert nor Paulie simply just asked why. Why do you want to do this?
Well, and that's kind of what,
right? Like,
well, Paulie's kind of got at with that question. You haven't peaked yet, so because I think Paulie now is truly confused. He doesn't know how to ask it properly, but that's his way of saying, well, what's going on here? It's not about money. Okay, it's not about the title shot. Okay, we've established that. It's not about your statue. What are we doing here? And that's what essentially Paulie's asked.
Yeah.
Peaked?
Yeah, peaked.
I don't know. There's still some stuff in the basement.
What basement?
In here.
Tell me about the stuff.
What about it?
What I love about this part is how quickly Paulie actually becomes the brother-in-law that we know Paulie can be, because he turns like therapist Paulie all of a sudden. Like, tell me about this stuff. Like, he's actually listening.
Yeah, he's actually asking kind of more open-ended questions. He's not presuming stuff. Are you doing it for the money? Are you doing it for this or that? He's more asking, okay, well, tell me about this. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what's going on with you, and actually trying to find out.
And I love the scene. Again, I recommend people to watch the scene where Burt Young does a great job acting. This is both highlight acting for both Burt and Sylvester. Burt looks to his left saying, like, actually looking for a physical basement. Because he goes, what basement? Like, he's thinking, what basement is he talking about? Not understanding the metaphor. And then Stallone / Rocky does that great hand gesture with his pointing to his innards, saying, here, the basement inside of me. It's a great, great metaphor. And
it is.
He says there's stuff in the basement. So now Paulie goes like, what stuff? Tell me about the stuff. And this is great.
Tell me about the stuff inside. Is it angry?
Angry?
I love that. He total therapist Paulie all of a sudden. Like, where did he get his degree in therapy?
Paulie's an intelligent person, not educated. He's not eloquent or articulate or have any form of tact or whatever, but he's not dumb. And so I think if Paulie wants to kind of be therapist Paulie, he can be. And
I love how he gives, is it angry? I love that.
Are you mad because Adrian left you?
She didn't leave, Paulie. She died.
Okay.
Now that's a great moment there. I love how quickly Stallone and acting, but the Rocky character, she didn't leave me, she died, and that voice quivers, and Paul's like, whoa, okay. I've navigated.
Yeah, he just stepped in it and he knows it.
Yeah. There's no fooling around with Paulie here. He becomes very sober very quickly because he does not want to unleash the beast on him. I think Paulie genuinely knows what Rocky could do to somebody if he gets angry.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes it's hard to breathe. I feel like this beast inside me.
It's okay, Rocco. Please, it's okay.
Is it? Okay. I just never knew it was supposed to be this hard. It wasn't supposed to be like this, Paulie, I said, you want to come by and help me train?
I got a job here.
I understand.
Remember you said if you stay one place long enough, you become that place? Rocco, this is all I got.
I understand, Paulie. I do.
I want to say the Oscar goes to...
Yeah, I don't know. They're both pretty good in this scene.
Yeah.
Actually.
Best actor to Sylvester Stallone and best supporting actor Burt Young. I mean, I think what we're seeing here is that unfortunate, which... Again, Stallone beat with the Creed nomination for Academy Award, which was amazing. But Stallone did an amazing job here. And I think his acting was probably, in this moment here in this scene, is better than what he did in the Creed films, though he got nominated in the Creed film.
One thing I'd like to give Sly props for is most, if not all, of his movies are really kind of masculine, macho type of films. However... They do have a lot of, especially the Rocky films, have a lot of emotion in it. And he has done something not a lot of men do or want to admit to do, is he cries in film.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's acting. Paulie gets uncomfortable when Rocky starts crying. People don't like seeing men cry.
No.
Like, there's something about that is just unsettling. I think you're just not used to it because men tend to hide their crying a lot of the time. Rocky did a full-out ugly cry in Rocky 3 when Paulie died, and he's crying here. And I think that's pretty cool that in a movie like this, just for what he's known for, being willing to do that and I guess kind of being vulnerable, I think that's pretty admirable.
Yeah, and it's not easy to do a cry that doesn't. He does a good job. Like Sly does a good job here with the cry, the Sly cry, I call it. Oh yeah, sorry. He's asked Paulie if he wants to help train in the corner like the old days, and Paulie's admits to Rocky, like, dude, I'm just a meat packer, dude. Now I can't go back to that. I don't have. Paulie does not have a beast or a basement.
Yeah, exactly. And this also foreshadows why it'll be so devastating for Paulie to lose his job.
Yeah, I can't paint no more.
Yeah, exactly.
She's busted. Burt Young, when he says that Rocky one about Adrian losing her virginity, she's busted. She ain't a virgin no more. I think we forget that was ever said in the film. A brother announcing her 30-year-old sister's loss of her virginity.
Oh boy,
she's busted. She's busted. And then he squeals, she ain't a virgin no more.
Well, it's like I can't remember who emailed. They kind of disagreed about Paulie changing so much in the films. I don't know. I think maybe they're right, but I think you don't see that part of Paulie in this film for whatever reason. Perhaps because he's evolved as a person over time. I don't know, but yeah, he.
You know what he should have done is when Rocky said, she didn't leave me, she died. Rocky just said, she's dead. She don't breathe no more.
Oh boy.
Well, if you get time, maybe come down and see me train. I appreciate it.
Of course, Rocco.
Bye, Paulie.
Goodbye, Rocco. Take care, Rocco.
Good place to stop. Great scene. I'm glad I got to do that with you, Kyle, because another great scene is coming up for our next episode, of course, is the Pennsylvania Athletic Commission. They're going to give their... I guess we'll find out that Rocky's applied for a reinstatement.
Well, the guy who's about to speak just got a new job. He was Rocky's lawyer in the last film, and now he's this commission guy in this film.
Yeah, he was Rocky's lawyer, and it's funny.
In case I'm not on the next episode, I wanted to point that out.
No, and that is interesting. We will point that out. I guess in theory, it's possible that he went from a lawyer to a boxing commission. The two could segue into each other. That the character could have done that.
It is possible. The music they put in made the scene so much better, and partially because it harkens back to the other films. But yeah, you see Paulie soften up there, and that's the great thing about Rocky. It's like a sporting film and a boxing film, but I think it's about people living their lives, and it's very emotional film.
Agreed. All right, man. Well, Kyle, there's a big supersized episode, which is great. I don't mind that at all because I think there might be a week or 2 weeks for those listening. It's already happened. So when this episode comes out, my life's getting kind of busy at work. So there might be a week or two where it's going to be one episode every 2 weeks. So this is a good kind of double episode to make up for that. So thank you, Kyle, and thank you for everyone who's listening. Again, remember, if you want to donate to Patreon, I would really appreciate that. It helps out the show. It helps out. Basically, you're helping the show go out without cost me money, if that makes sense. And anything extra, like I said before, anything extra that we happen to get, we will put towards advertising the show on Twitter and Facebook and things like that, just to kind of boost listenership, which would be wonderful. I will not pocket it and go to Jamaica on a cruise.
You won't go to Europe, you mean?
That's right. I won't go to Jamaica. I won't be going to any European Jamaican country and meeting some Irish girl and having a love child. That being said, follow us on Twitter. Follow us on our Facebook group on Facebook, of course, Rocky Series Podcast. We appreciate it. Send us emails. We love it. Like I said, if you can't donate to Patreon, let us know that you're listening, that you care, and you like what we're doing, and all that good stuff. So, Kyle, do you want to take us out?
Ding, ding.
All right, brother. All right, get to your little baby.
I will, man. Hey, thanks. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you, and I'm sure we'll have you on again.
For sure. Hey, did you get a bunch of snow up there, or is that just the East Coast?
No, we got a lot. In fact, I'll be out in the snow for a week with the recruits next week in the elements.
Nice.
Yeah.
You show them how it's done, buddy.
Yeah, I'll be channeling my Rocky 4 training montage to get through that week.
Man, it's been like this week. The average high here has been like minus 27 or something.
Yeah, we were actually in the minus 20s over last week, but we're starting to quote unquote warm up. We were only minus 15 today, and then the last 3 days that I'm in the field is actually going to be between minus 5 and 2. So I get to actually end on a warm note. When you know it's cold when 0 feels warm.
Yeah, and minus 20 for you is a lot worse than minus 20 here because of the humidity.
Yeah, it's cold.
In Alberta here, it's quite dry.
Right.
So
it's cold.
But yeah.
And I'm a West Coaster, man, like born and raised in Victoria, and I'm telling you, like, yeah, it's been a long time, if ever, that I felt this kind of cold in my life before. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like Paulie, man. Where's my comic?
On the joints, right?
Where's my comic? Where's my Where's my Rose Bowl game?
Will you be here for raising reindeer or whatever I say?
Yeah. This is the worst vacation ever. All right, brother. Take care, brother.
Take care. Bye.